Either way, we should probably do a proper intro before we
Yes,
start talking about stuff.
probably we should.
All right, good intro.
Good intro. I was having
No,
a
that's your job, Hops. You're the host.
I was having
Yeah.
a stumbling block there. Welcome to Backcap, episode, what is this, 5? Episode 5.
Already too many.
Already too many.
Smooth
4
brains.
episodes longer than I figured we would get to before one of us flaked out. And to be honest, it's kind of been Maple up to this point.
And me too.
We'll just see how it progresses. Lots of cool stuff to talk about tonight. Let's just jump into it. Maple had a couple cool things he wanted to talk about, so take us away, Maple.
Okay, first off, welcome to season 2 of Apex Legends. Oh boy, I have not played this game for like a month, but I tried playing it the other day and it's a lot better than it used to be. They fixed a lot of the bugs, they got rid of a lot of the hacks and cheats that you can do in that game. There's still people that like speed across the map at high speeds, but whatever.
I
They
think
just dropped.
historically from like listening to other like games, I think that's one of the harder cheats to like manage for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I don't know how game code works out, but
I don't know. Anyways, they just dropped a fat patch. I think it's like 16 gigabytes or something, which is humongous. That's like half the size of the game. And they added season 2. They added a competitive mode, which I'm excited to try because I've not tried a competitive battle royale mode. Because the only one I've seen was Fortnite, but I don't care about Fortnite.
I mean, you do.
You're right, I do. I just don't want to admit it. They added
Yeah.
Watson, who's
Is it?
Like-
Yeah.
an electrical, essentially a zookeeper with electricity fences.
I thought she was basically the electric type caustic.
Yeah, it seems like that. Only her way of caging people in is like more tangible. It's not like a cloud of gas. There's like actual fences of electricity, and you can weaponize them, I guess. She looks like a cool character. I really like the character concepts in that game. Like they do a really good job of making interesting, pretty novel ideas.
what so are these fences, are they like kind of like shaman totem kind of thing where it slows you,
Yeah, I think so.
or does it damage you, or can you just like, is it
Hold on.
completely impassable?
I believe it just damages you.
Okay.
Let's watch it. I don't,
Man,
I don't know.
Maple didn't do his research before
You know
the
what?
show.
I didn't. I knew about her kit, but then you asked the one question I didn't have an answer to, and now I resent you.
Watson's primary tactical ability is perimeter security, allowing her to place down a series of nodes that automatically connect to form electrified fencing. This creates
So-
sort of a force field by slowing and damaging any
Yeah,
enemies that walk through.
So it's not impenetrable, but it looks like it drops their speed significantly.
I like her ult. Interception
That's cool.
Interception Pylon. Her ultimate ability deploys an electrified pylon that destroys incoming ordnance while also repairing damaged shields as long as it stands.
Yeah.
So like a better Gibraltar ultimate.
No.
It's
No?
an
It's
more of like
anti-Bangalore.
Wait, no.
It's more like a combination of his shield and like a shield buff to each character.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's basically an anti-Bangalore ult, really, because Bangalore has the ultimate where she can rain down hell from above. If this nullifies that and also recharges your field, end game, like last 2 or 3 squads, that could be crazy strong.
That could be really strong. They also added I guess they're called Leviathans, those tall, giant like deer creatures that walk around the ocean. They now infiltrate some areas of the map. I think there's smaller like lizard creatures that are like stalking around some areas, which actually sounds like a really cool idea. It sounds like a nice way of like freshening up the battle royale scene by adding NPCs of some sort, not NPCs, but like non human factors that can do damage to you and disrupt gameplay. I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, so it seems like they're trying to do partially the Fortnite model, where instead of bringing new maps, they're going to be changing the one map that you have, right? And that way you keep like the same queue system.
Yeah.
But then they're also going to have dynamic map mid game, which I think is something that we haven't really seen yet, and it's really cool. Other than like the red zone in PUBG, which meh. But let's see how long it takes for Fortnite to implement that in the game.
I don't really know how Fortnite would implement something like the creatures in this game, because they don't really have quite the same world built as.
They don't care.
Yeah, that's true. They don't.
If it's successful in Apex, they'll put it in Fortnite.
Mushrooms or something. They added a lot of hitboxes for characters. They added the new L-Star EMG. They patched a bunch of weapons. I don't know. I'm downloading the patch right now. I'm gonna try it later.
I mean, so
I want to try the ranked mode really badly.
Yeah, which actually ranked Apex after this.
And I played the other day, and like the servers are a lot more stable, and there's a lot less cheaters, and also because a lot of like the lower skill people have moved back to Fortnite, it's a lot less memey. Like people are actually like skill killing each other instead of hiding in a corner and chucking arc stars, which is cool.
The one thing I really liked what they added is that they've added harsher penalties for leavers. Is that if you leave at character select when you're knocked and when you have the ability to be resurrected, or you just leave in general, it's going to start with a 5-minute cooldown, escalating up to a full week.
Is that specifically for ranked queue, or is that for casual queue as well?
Just for ranked queue.
Ranked queue.
Okay.
So casual queue is still like quick play in Overwatch or something, where you can just bounce out whenever you want with no penalty. But yeah, no, it could be up to, I think was it 1 or 2 weeks? I think it's just 1.
1 week. They'll probably increase it if they see a lot of issues still to like a full season ban or something. It's one of those things that you just iterate upon depending on what your stats look like. So. But I was surprised that it's a fairly severe punishment too. Like if you just like leave because you think your team is wiped, but then they weren't, which happens more often because you can like revive people. I have people all the time who just dip out like, oh, you're gonna die, and then I clutch it.
I think it's a good thing in team games though. I think while Overwatch tends to be really bad about punishing people who don't play as part of the team, I think Apex or EA or whoever makes Apex, whoever's in charge of that business, they seem to be following the suit of some other games that have been much harsher towards people that aren't in it for the greater goods experience, so to say. And will take people out, right? So I think one thing that I've really liked as a player, even though I haven't played the game much, is like when you look at Rainbow Six and seeing every time that somebody on your server instance gets banned by BattlEye, right? Or whatever.
Actually, did you say they added that to Overwatch?
No,
Did you see? They added a thing now where if they detect cheating, instead of waiting until after a match, they just end the match instantly and ban them on the spot, and they give everyone a message.
Yep.
And you don't get like, SR penalty, which is
like, it's not going to affect me because no one ever like cheats in gold. They just smurf, which is a completely different issue. Which I understand why they wouldn't do the same thing, because that's a lot harder to prove. But it's cool because apparently there's a lot of cheaters in like Masters and GM.
Yes, there is.
And I agree with chat, and that it's long overdue. And Blizzard has been very slow about pushing out these just like general community health things in general.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. Moving on, I know Maple really was wanting to also talk about the new Witcher
I just want to see Henry
TV show.
Cavill. How do you say his name?
Cavill?
I don't know. Everybody come up with a different pronunciation.
Cavill. That's my name. It sounds elegant and beautiful like him. I like The Witcher. I like the games a lot. I'm hyped for the TV
Mhm.
show. I think Netflix will probably do a good job of it because like the books, from what I've read, are really well written and the plot's really well done. So if Netflix stays like okay to the plot line and does good graphics, it'll be good.
And I think the one thing that a lot of people are already jumping on is the fact that these books, or that the Netflix series is following the books, not the video games. So
Yeah.
that is going to throw a lot of people off because they're going to be like, well,
Fucking
this isn't my
second
Witcher
sword.
3. No, this is following the books, which is why his sword is very simple. And so I think it looks really good. Like, this is the
think it's
first
gonna
time.
look cool.
Yeah, this is the first time I've actually like been excited for a Netflix offering in a while.
Right. And I think one of the problems that I've read, I haven't read the books yet. It's actually, am just finishing up Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe right now, and then the Witcher series is my next thing to do on the list. But one of kind of the biggest complaints that I've seen about the books so far is that they don't explore like female perspectives or like female characters really well, which I will be honest is something that happens with older Eastern European
I was gonna say it's a fairly
literature, right? But the other thing is that the books often don't actually do that good of a job of exploring the universe that it's in, right? And I think the great thing about how the show seems poised right now is that, I mean, obviously with a TV show you can see more, and I'm excited to kind of see more of this universe brought to light, and like we've seen it in the video games as well. But also, from what I understand, the people that they've casted for the prominent female Rose in the show seem to be much more capable of hopefully bringing us a strong performance and a strong understanding of those characters and how they fit into Geralt's backstory and how he is as a character. So I'll be interested to see how that does. I'm always excited to hopefully see good fantasy adaptations, because every time there's a bad one, I lose a little faith in
everything.
TV and everything ever.
What was the last good fantasy adaptation you saw?
The first couple seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Up until
I never
about
watched
season
Game of
6.
Actually, and like the first few seasons were like line for line accurate to the books. But I can think of very few series that I've ever liked more than the books themselves. And I think the one example I always use is Lord of the Rings, just because war books play out so much better on screen. And there's definitely some bias as well with like, that was the first time we like ever saw like the battle at Helm's Deep, right? I always look at it and I'm like, we had never seen a battle on that scale in movie before.
They literally
looked that good.
I read stats about that. They had like 10,000 people, 10,000 extras just milling around this small New Zealand town for like 6 months. And they like pumped cash into that tiny village. Like they got fucking rich.
And the crazy thing too is like they had 10,000 people, but then they were actually doing some of the first instances of using like CGI to actually take those people and like replicate them and make little differences in them. So they grew the army out to like hundreds of thousands of Uruk-hai and orcs and humans and everything. So a little off topic, but that's my like one good example of the times where I'm like, I'd rather watch the movies than read the books for fantasy.
Well, yeah, and also Tolkien can get very long-winded in a bad way in certain parts of the books.
They paced it very well compared to the books. The pacing was really nice,
as opposed to the Hobbit book first movie, which we won't talk about. But I love the pacing of that book in particular.
I have a very nice illustrated version of The Hobbit.
Yeah, I think his writing style fits much better the more adventure side of Hobbit than the more like wartime story of Lord of the Rings. But I guess the focus was always more on Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin anyway. So anyway.
Yeah.
Not quite The Witcher anymore, but
no, that's okay. That's okay.
All right, moving on to actually, should we answer a quick question from chat? Yankee Bebop, I never know what to call you, so I'll just call you Yankee.
Just make up a new name for
asks, what do you Yank Bob? I'm pretty sure that's
I like Bison.
Bison it is.
Okay, because I think Yank Bop would get me pulled off the air. how do you feel about the rumor of 222 lock and owl? We've talked about that quite a bit. I think it's gonna be good, but
Let's just like hit on this when we talk the types actually.
well, we can
It's
go
really
ahead and just why don't we just roll into that now?
Let's just do that. Let's just roll into
Yeah.
that. You're right. You're right.
That actually leads me into asking, what do you guys think about Siegel's comments that 222 will not work unless you have a hero ban on top of it?
Well, what does he mean by work?
Meaning
What-
it's gonna that in order for them to get the actual results they want and to keep the games fresh, hero bans is what is what is needed.
But I still don't understand what he means, like what Blizzard is quote unquote trying to accomplish here, right? Because I don't view the move to 222 as trying to keep the game fresh. I view it more as a change for like the general health of the player base than
It's like-
anything else.
It's to fix the owl meta, and it's to make casual competitive more bearable, where people don't just switch roles willy nilly and make me suffer. Like,
See, I
it's
actually
not-
think that's the primary focus of it, and then eliminating goats is just kind of a convenient secondary change at this point.
like I would love hero. I would love hero bans. That would be super cool. I think if they added hero bans to casual play, it would alienate. Oh, just owl.
Yeah, no,
But I don't know if I want to move to a world where pro play and like ranked online play aren't the same format,
Yeah.
right? Like you guys, I know like Hops at least watches a little bit of Rainbow Six, and the mode that the professionals play in CL and PL is so different than what a game looks like
Mhm.
for like you online that
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like the same game anymore.
But then again, when you load into Overwatch right now, do you feel like you are playing the same thing as the pros do? I don't.
No,
mean-
I feel like I'm trying to herd a couple baby sheep.
A couple. I wish there was friendly fire in Overwatch sometimes.
So much of the owl right now is teams rebelling against the goats meta. The biggest run right now is Countdown Cop, seen frequently from teams like Houston with triple DPS. But see, here's the thing, is that if like here's my biggest problem with the 222. Teams like the Hunters and Houston's triple DPS and things like that, you're losing some of that creativity. You're losing some of that uniqueness. All it's going to do is the 222 is it's going to force it into either double sniper or dive. That's it. I think we're going to lose
It depends on how they balance, because they're
mean-
going to have to do some fat balance changes too.
I just worry that, yeah, they're going to lose some of the creativity that you at least have right now.
I agree with that, but also I kind of disagree, because I think teams like the Outlaws and the Hunters are still going to be creative in their team comps because they're going to have to be, because they aren't good at conventional team comps like Dive, the same way that like Spitfire and Nixel are. Like they're going to have to go to like variants that are different or weird.
But I
There's
think
20 teams.
people also said the same argument back when hero limits first came in the first place, right? When at one point the meta was like, what was it, like 3 Winstons and 3 Lucios or something like
Yeah.
that. And it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you could argue that that's creative, but like, is it fucking boring to watch and play and participate in? Yeah. I think that while there definitely has been some like interesting variety with not 222 comps, like we've seen goats, yes, that's beaten to death, it's fine. But I think most comps that we've seen outside of that, until triple DPS recently and some of the tank stuff that went on in EU, most normal metas have been some variant of 222, and then
We
biggest
lost.
exception.
Okay, I was going to say we lost Squid for a second.
Oh yeah, my internet is fucky today, and there's literally nothing that I can do about it. So
I
screw
think
you guys.
bottom line, people are making their guesstimations a little too hastily and a little too dramatically.
but that's what we're here for.
Hot takes.
I'm saying people like Siegel say it just won't work without hero bans, which is like a completely different conversation and a completely different like system to implement. And it's like, well, why don't you just wait for them to put in one thing that's been 3 years in the making before saying add this other thing at the same time? I don't know. It's like every time they add a hero, they're like, oh my god, it's gonna be groundbreaking. Like when they added Sombra, they're like, holy shit, Sombra hacking people. Nah, she didn't do anything for 6 months or a year or whatever.
Yeah, it's been longer than about what 18 months now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Something just like the whole 222 force lock. Like, how much of this is Blizzard trying to balance the game for a television viewer versus actual competitive balance? I don't know if I like TV viewers and Twitch viewers driving the meta of the game. Yes, GOATS is boring, but it's like if you have a 10% Twitch or drop in viewership, do you knee jerk and start actually changing the core game to make up for it? Which is what I don't know if I believe that's what they're doing, but there's a lot of people, especially on Reddit and Twitter, who are claiming that they're letting the basically Twitch cries finally kind of guide where they're going.
Reddit will claim whatever the fuck they want and think that it's true. So.
I mean, I feel like I could ask anyone in gold who actually gives a crap, or anyone in like the more average elos, like, do you want 222? And they'd be like, yeah, because I'm tired of people just switching roles all the time. Like, it's not about GOATs really, it's about people wanting to play the game without having dumbasses make stupid decisions because they can carry on a role that someone else they feel is inadequate at.
So this just popped into my head. How would you guys feel is that instead of, what is it, they add 30 seconds between rounds and allow people to switch their roles? Like you put up a role vote and you can let people switch their roles.
I don't think you're locked to your role. I think it's just that like once two people choose, I suspect it's gonna be like once people choose 2 DPS, then the DPS category is locked.
But I've heard it possibly being rolled out two ways. Either like a roll queue where you just say I'm gonna roll as healer and bam 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 2-2-2.
I'd be down with the roll queue, but I don't think they go that far.
I don't think they will. I think that is above what they're willing to do.
I agree.
But it's interesting because now all of a sudden I think we're probably going to see more early leavers and throwers, because you're going to get in and say, oh, well, my computer loads a little bit slower. I don't have Overwatch installed in an SSD. I want to play DPS. I load in. I can't get my 2 DPS. I'm just going to throw on Brig.
So everything that I've seen and heard from Blizzard, as far as like statements from Jeff on streams and stuff like that, has been that if they roll out 222 to the normal like online competitive play, right, not Overwatch League where they can implement whatever the fuck they want, that it will be with a role queue system. And that's part of why it's taking so long to roll out, is because they have to rewrite the matchmaker in order to account for that, right?
Okay, that actually makes sense then. Okay, I would believe they would do it in that case.
Yeah. Okay, see, I had not heard that comment about how Jeff has said that it would have to be with a role queue.
Several comments, like just kind of like under the wire, like, oh yeah, we really like the idea of role queue, and that's it. That's all he said.
Well, so what has happened with Jeff, and he's talked about this before, is that the second that he says something in a developer video or whatever, right? And it used to be much more open with us, was that people would be like, this is coming and we're getting it tomorrow, right? And then things take time in development, and especially when you look at how Blizzard goes about producing content for Overwatch, it's very slow, it's very methodical, it's very heavily tested before it's rolled out, for the most part, with exceptions. Bastion. And like this is the kind of thing that'll take time for them to do. So there's been stuff going back almost since, before the start of season 2 of Overwatch League. Actually, if you go back to the preseason, where I remember Jeff talking about this and talking about role queue specifically, maybe not 2-2 lock, but a role queue. And he said that like that's something that sounds interesting. And then he's like, I don't want to commit to saying anything more than that because then the expectation is there. And if it's like something that we explore and then it's not going to work out and we don't do it, then we're going to get crucified. So
He's basically been saying stuff since Siegel released that video about
A state of Overwatch.
problems. Yeah, the state of Overwatch. That was basically when people started like calling for role queues, when he started like hinting, because he doesn't want to say anything outright because then he'll just have people like Mercy maining on his ass.
Oh yeah, hashtag rework Mercy.
Shut the fuck up.
I mean, I could do without res.
Yeah, if you want to talk about shit mechanics, that's probably the worst one in the game. But
I mean, I don't know. I tend to think that Mercy's probably in its best spot since I started playing the game. I have no problem with Resurrection.
Plug my opinion on Resurrection real quick. Like a time period of Resurrection, and then they die, and then they respawn. Instead of just flat out Resurrection.
Oh, so you want to turn her into a necromancer, basically?
Yes.
See, I just think that she should be able to move less during her res. Like it is hard to punish
Okay.
right now
I
because
dig
she moves a lot and it's like a pretty short.
How is
actual
it
cast
so
time?
hard to hit her head on Widowmaker when she's standing still?
Yeah,
I
'cause she's not
don't
standing still.
understand. And then like you hit her wing because it's in front of her head, and you're like, why does that count? Why can I have not pierced her weird ethereal light wing and hit
I just
her
want to
skull?
know. I just want to know why she all of a sudden turns invisible to all of my goddamn teammates.
That's because you're in gold and your teammates are just as bad as
Every
you are.
time I go in for res, my friend's like, "Don't do it, you're gonna die." And I walk out unscathed, and he's like, "How? How did you do that?" People
Yeah.
are fucking stupid. They're fucking.
But enough of flaming teammates because that's something that everyone is capable of. We don't need a podcast for that because anybody can do that. But returning to the Siegel comments thing, right? I think the point that Siegel was trying to make is that it won't fix people's like interest in Overwatch League and the professional meta. And I do really think that this change towards 222 is actually something that's more about the general player base. And then they're going to put it on professional platforms first, such as Overwatch League, such as World Cup, to try to like kind of just test your reaction to it and see how people feel about it. And then if it works there, or if people are happy with it, then they'll probably push it to competitive play. Because like you can't test it on PTR because no one cares and no one gives a fuck on PTR. It's a meme. Like the fact that they even have PTR is kind of a meme in and of itself, to be completely honest.
It's because there's
Um,
console. You gotta treat them all equally.
Is it really
That's-
for console?
that's-
What about it is
No,
for console?
they don't give you any benefits because console can't use it. It's to make console feel better that they don't benefit the PTR.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's just that they put things on PTR to like quote unquote test them, but then I very rarely see them make changes other than like
Well,
every once in a while you have a new hero come out and something like, you remember when Brig had the super jumps? You remember that Jane stream where he found out that Brig had super
Did
jump
really?
and he was like
why
freaking
did
out
they get rid of that?
because Brig's oppressive enough.
Yep.
I loved that.
No,
You can still do
no,
it, really.
no Brig buffs,
Also,
no Maple.
last I saw, which was like a year and a half ago, that was why they don't incentivize the PTRs, because they don't have it on console. And they don't want console to bitch at them anymore.
Well,
Well,
again, I don't think it's about incentivizing. I just don't understand why they don't actually like, because they've created this like feedback loop where because they don't actually make any changes on
Yeah.
PTR, people don't give a fuck on PTR. They're just like, oh, it's a new hero. They play it for 30 seconds or they look at the new map and then they leave. Right. And
Yeah.
at this point, it's like, why bother having it?
Who cares?
Yep. And also to add to what FLM says, that who cares about the 100 people who play console? I can wholeheartedly, without hesitation, say that console Twitch chat is the most toxic
my God.
Cancer.
waste dump I've
didn't
ever
even
been a part
watch
of.
that chat, and it was cancer.
It was, it was,
Like, the rumors about Xbox Live Call of Duty persist. The legend continues in Overwatch. Holy shit.
so where you jump in right from 222 into what Squid was wanting to kind of talk about, which would not happen with a 222, the Titans playing 4 DPS on Horizon Lunar
Coolest
Colony
match ever.
when
I
he
laughed.
like it was the craziest thing because they had to win that match. They had to go 4-0 for the top seed, and here they are, no tank. Like,
So, I have thoughts about this composition in theory, like in my head, and then there's how it actually played out, and they're kind of two separate things. I'm going to try to explain it, but it's going to be me trying to do analysis without a teleprompter, so I'm sorry. It's just going to be listening to my like Papega brain nonsense. So sorry, chat. But so if you look at like specifically thinking about the composition that Gladiators was running, right? You have Orisa Hog, you have Bastion, Sombra, and then you have Baptiste and Ana, right? And so the first thing that strikes out to me is that they don't have a diva in that composition, right? So you can do Halta combos. The Bastion is obviously really strong. You have a lot of sustain, but you don't have diva to actually use defense matrix. And so the first thing that I look at when I look at the Gladiators comp, the Titans comp, was you have Reaper, Junk, Pharah, Sombra, and then 2 healers that ultimately don't matter all that much, right? But all 4 of those are heroes that are like typically very hard countered by diva, but get a tremendous amount of value when the diva isn't there, right? The exception maybe being Sombra. There's kind of a weird like relationship between Sombra and diva, but there's like a huge potential for spam and just a fuck ton of damage coming from those 4 at the same time, especially once you pair Mercy damage boost with it, right? And diva defense matrix and all that is a talk for another day. But so that's like my first thought about the composition. And then my second thought about this composition that Titans runs is that they walk out with whatever the fuck they walked out with goats, right? And you see Baptiste, Bastion, Bunker, right? And you're like, any tank that's going to try to jump on top of this is going to die, right? Like unless Gladiators fucks up, basically anything that Bumper is going to try to run is going to die or get just about 0 value, right? So why bother? So I think they kind of come up with this composition where a lot of it's about like just applying a fuck ton of pressure and a fuck ton of damage so that you make Bastion kind of have to rotate away. And then the thing that they specifically did on Horizon Lunar Colony, or at least that they were trying to do, or at least this is how like my Papega brain was doing the analysis on it, was that they used the Pharah and the Junkrat in order to try to push the bunker composition off of the balcony on Horizon and down to the attackers like back left, back by where like the hydroponics or whatever tank is, right? And then they need to now step onto point to contest, but there is a Sombra and a Reaper that have come right side and are now like on point and are applying a lot of pressure to them trying to just step on the point. And so how Gladiators has tried to use this comp is that they use Roar on the Winston, excuse me. They don't have Orisa Hog, they have Orisa Winston, right? So they typically have the Winston step on the point and try to contest, but now suddenly you have a Sombra and a Reaper, and Roar's just going to have a really, really sad day. So like you're trying to do this thing where you're forcing them into the back corner, and then when they try to step on a test, they're going to have a bad time. This is how it plays out in my head. I think that's something that makes sense. I'm sure there's a little bit more nuance to it, but in theory, it makes sense, and Bumper fucking likes Junkrat, apparently. So what actually happened and why Titans fucking swept this so quickly, I went into like super slow-mo to watch this, right? So Gladiators rotate to back left of point, and then the Gladiators kill the Sombra on the side of Titans, and they're like, okay, we have a moment of respite, so we're going to set back up top. So they go to set back up top. Hydration throws down his Orisa shield, and then Shortfork goes up the stairs without the shield and takes 2 damage boosted far rockets to the face. And that's basically the end of that fight.
Yeah.
That's real.
It was really quick. Like,
yeah,
it was scary. And then I just remember, like, after they capped first point, they switched to Stitch's face cam, and he was just, like, laughing, basically. He was, like, laughing at the Gladiators. It was so fucking funny. This, like, 9-year-old goldfish laughing his head off.
Yeah.
I fucking love Stitch.
Yeah, that's why I don't think that like everybody's trying to claim about like, oh, the Titans are gonna suck when it comes to 2-2-2. I don't think so.
I don't think they're gonna suck.
I don't think they're gonna
this was
be
a very good show of how good they actually are because, like, it was the Gladiators, and I think they were kind of lucky killing Surefour right off the bat.
I agree.
So I don't think it was really a display of anything, and then they just snowballed really hard. I'm not saying they aren't competent. I'm just saying I want to see more before I make an evaluation of how good they are.
Yeah.
Also, I think they're
we've-
just straight flexing on them a little
Yeah,
bit.
we've talked about this in the past. I think Titans are not. It is unlikely that they will be as strong in the next meta as they are in this meta because they had much more time to practice it than any other team in Overwatch League.
Yeah,
Um,
we were talking about. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
We were
No,
just
you go
talking
ahead.
about how some teams aren't like structured great for other metas, and how when they implement the 2-2-2 roll lock, they're gonna suffer. And it's like, well, that sucks. Maybe they shouldn't have built a 12-man roster around one meta.
I mean, I think Titans will be okay. I
think they'll
mean,
be
they're one that's been built from before that, but they won't have the advantage of having like 6 months of competitive practice on the composition before everyone else does.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I definitely think that they'll have a team that'll be competitive at least like the middle to upper tier, but
Mhm.
where exactly they fall in there is going to be really interesting to see. So the really interesting thing to me was not how Vancouver took first point on Horizon, but they continued to run the same comp on
Yeah, they
second
did.
point and cap there. And let me tell you, I encourage you, now that we have the replay viewer, to go and pull that up after the podcast and see how badly Gladiators actually like just completely threw that fight
They threw it.
so hard. So my single favorite part of this fight though, right, is that Big Goose is on the Baptiste and he's up on the rafters above like the point trying to shoot down on the bunker comp that's on that like upper left balcony behind him. And Stitch tries to go up on Haxel tries to go up on the Pharah to try to pressure out Chaz on the Ana. And Big Goose lays down his fucking amplification matrix for himself on the rafter facing towards the defense spawn. So like the only value that he's getting out of it is shooting a Pharah that's been there for like 2 seconds and then's like, well, this is here. I'm gonna fuck off and leave now, and gets no other value out of it other than the fact that like you're still running an Orisa and a Widowmaker and you could just fucking go in heads. So I just like it was so funny to try to. I watched that at like 0.25 and was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And it's a tremendous meme. And I'm so glad that they pulled out slightly more orthodox compositions for the rest of the map because it was ugly.
Did you see the Toronto Valiant game on Horizon? Because it was way more interesting than the Gladiators Titans one. Because they had Mangachu running Torbjorn and they had Logix running Torbjorn, and I think at one point Logix
were on Torb.
they were both on Torb at the same time at one point.
That's hot.
No, they're on the same team.
Oh shit. Fuck, I'd have to look at the roster again. Oh man.
Was Logix on Tracer?
He was on Widowmaker. And he got like
spicy. Man.
Agilities was on Torbjorn? I don't know. I lost it. I lost the thread. But anyways, they were running some fucking weird comps. They had a Torbjorn, they had a Hanzo, they had a Widow. They ran like half of the DPS in one point. Like for second point Horizon, it was so fucking fun to watch because every time they finished a team fight, Mangachu would walk back into spawn, he'd switch to a new hero, he'd kill them, he'd walk back in, he'd switch to a new hero.
Wow.
He cycled through like 5. It was awesome. Oh god.
I quickly realized with Mangachu and Logix on Toronto's roster that while I am excited to see Mangachu and Logix on that team, they still cannot redeem the rest of that team, and they're still fucking Pega tier, and I did not watch any of their matches this week.
Gods is like okay, but he can't really hard carry the rest.
Gods is a good role player. I don't think he's gonna be a star.
No.
But like I'm just thinking, so they have going into a potential 2-2-2. You have Mangachu, Logix, Gods, and I'm 37.
Logix is literally I always forget how good Logix is, but he dinked like 5
Yeah.
people in a row at one point, just like without even thinking about it. It's like holy shit.
Yeah, so
Like,
they
nutty.
actually they have 4 starting level
Hmm.
DPS if you believe that God should be starter. They have 4
That's not who
starter.
my complaint is with.
Hmm?
My gripe would be that with I'm 37.
I'm
over
37
the
low key
other
throws
three.
like every 30 seconds.
I mean,
There's not even a
He
contest.
has his
about it.
moments of goodness,
just-
and
Yeah.
he has his moments of Pepega.
I
It's
don't know.
because he's just working his way up to commissioner. Let's be real, guys.
If he hasn't gotten it by now with Nate out, then it's
Yeah.
not going to happen. He should just end
Speed
his career.
It's just
I don't
for
know.
show. He got the position last month.
Oh, okay. They need to make it
Yeah.
appear like
It's
they
on
are
the
interviewing
download
other
'cause he's
candidates.
so young, and they don't want to make the old people feel so.
I don't know.
So we're gonna
Regardless,
have a shadow government for the Overwatch League for the next
Pretty
like 5 years
much,
until they
pretty
announce I'm 37.
Also, Jeff Kaplan was at Overwatch League this weekend, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's gonna announce something." Nah, he was just there for fucking good time.
yeah,
I feel bad for the dude because it's like he built this game from the ground up, and it's been like one of his passion projects. And he was like all about like Overwatch League, like we're making this game for Overwatch League to be a thing. And then the second that he shows up to watch a game, he's like, man, I finally got time off from work. It's been so fucking stressful. These fucking Papegas on the competitive Overwatch subreddit won't stop bitching at me to implement these things that they want. We finally rolled out a new patch. I just want to go enjoy watching people play my game at a high level. And then the second he shows up, everyone's like, Jeff is here. He's going to announce it. And he's like, please let me fucking chill for a night.
After like 20
That's my
minutes, they
Jeff
chilled
impression.
out, and he had a good time. But the first like 20 minutes, he's like, "God damn it! Should have stayed home with a
Poor guy.
bottle of vodka."
Do you think Jeff is a vodka guy?
I mean, he probably wasn't to begin with, but
he's-
he needed a quick
Yeah.
fix after a while.
I was gonna say that he's solidly like a weak IPA man. I think
I agree. Or like a cider boy.
he's a cocaine guy now.
Maybe you get into like 7 or 8%, but
He doesn't have that harried look of a cocaine boy.
Yeah, his
He looks
nostrils
like a-
are not nearly as flared out as Gaben.
yeah, excuse me.
He's like a fruity cider boy. I'll bet you anything. A fruity one
Who,
though,
Jack?
not just like straight apple, like apple, raspberry, mango, or some shit.
Jeff Kaplan lets matches burn down to his fingertips just to feel something. Oh, this poor man. I would be desensitized after listening to this community for 3 years.
After seeing the forum, literal like thousands of forum posts about reworking Mercy, every time he sees one, he just takes another shot.
Can we get an F and okay, so we've talked about before. So all 3 of us in some form or another moderate Twitch chat on some channels.
Oh,
Can we actually pour one out for the poor fuckers that get paid to read the Overwatch forums on Battle.net? Because that seems like Twitch chat is like the 6th level of hell, and then the Blizzard forums have to be like the 6 millionth level
I
of
think
hell.
at this point they just have a bot that like highlights keywords, and if it has a certain number of like a certain ratio of keywords to stupid words, then they're like, "Oh shit, we should read this one." If it says Mercy 9,000 times, we should give it a peek. If it only says it twice, nah, we'll just ignore it.
They're not angry enough.
Yeah.
Come back when you're madder. Oh god.
God, yeah. No,
Okay, going back to hero bands would be cool. I would like that in Overwatch League. That would be very cool. In casual competitive, no. That sounds stupid, and people would just ban Reaper all the time.
I think we'd see Brig banned a lot.
Not in gold plat.
see, and the thing is you say that, but like when Elo Hell was toying with hero bands and doing those pugs, the number 1 hero that
It
was
like
banned,
Bay or something.
Reinhardt.
It was Lucio. Oh, Reinhardt. That's
Reinhardt
yeah.
was the number 1 hero banned,
They would just ban-
followed by Mercy, followed by Lucio, I want to say.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
Lucio was up
Lucio.
there.
So yeah, like everyone would be because Brig is absolutely trash tier
Without Reinhardt.
throw pick on ladders right now,
Yeah.
unless you're going in with a stick stack.
I played with a team the other day who was playing Mercy, Brig with an Orisa. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, y'all are making me suffer on main
Maple, that's
tank
half
right
my
now.
games, bro. That's half
I
my
never,
games.
I died 26 times in like 8 minutes. I swear to God. I like,
And only half of those were his healer's fault.
Yeah.
I was playing Hog too. Like, I wasn't even like pushing out that far. I'd turn around as soon as I see them. Like, oh, okay.
But I think that we've talked about this a little bit before, but I think one of the reasons that you can use goats to advocate for 222 is because most of those heroes now, I think, in a meta where at least like one of those other heroes doesn't exist, are kind of close to dog shit, right? Like I think
No, the
Brig,
supports all are the
yeah, like Brig
tanks,
is
I'd argue, are fine, but
Reinhardt is
Reinhardt
very
is
dependent on having a
eternal.
Lucio and a
Reinhardt is eternal because he's a mobile shield. That's it.
it depends on what your team comp is and like
I mean, it
when your team
depends, but
works with you,
like he's always been dog shit because he's buggy as hell with all of his different mechanics. They
Yeah.
still haven't fixed charge.
but like Zarya is weaker and weaker.
Zarya's still fine.
Diva may actually be at a point where she's like not a must pick anymore, and I think
God.
that's one of the things that we've seen with as Sombra taking over more and more in the meta is because Diva is less and less prevalent. And in fact, she has another nerf on the patch that's on PTR right now as well, right?
What's the nerf
Or the
on
one that just
PTR?
hit live.
Yeah, it was the one
where
that
it's
reduced her DM.
15 to 10, right?
Gosh, she doesn't need it.
She needed like maybe 2 meters, not 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
like-
the problem is just that there's no one else in the game that has the same ability.
yeah.
Well, it's just. I mean, that's like only like. If you think about how big she is and how big her DM is, it's only a little bit bigger than her actual body, which seems a little strange. Like the ratios. Like you want it to be like fairly far in front of her, but 10 seems a little too short.
I think just from like playing with it, it seems a little weird.
I like
don't-
the animation though.
yeah,
the animation looks really good.
Very nice.
it's just like she feels so bad to play now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's an adjustment period, but like,
She didn't
Man.
feel awful, but like
It's way easier to
it
feed.
was still a little sad.
I'm like okay with it because she's been meta for so long, but also I think that the damage creep in this game has been a very real thing over the last like year and a half, and she's been one of the mitigating factors of that. And now if she gets pushed out of the meta, I think actually that's one of the bigger reasons why like 3 DPS is so strong, is that they're, for the most part, it's usually a Pharah, a Sombra, and then like one other DPS. And
Hits
Pharah and
game
Sombra are
usually
two
is
heroes that fucking thrive when Diva isn't there,
Yeah.
or when Diva is like distracted and doing other things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I think the damage creep is definitely real. I think I think they knew that was coming in. That's why they add Baptiste in there with the invulnerability field, which I'm still kind of interested to see how he rolls out, because I still don't feel like as a lot of people have a solid grasp how to play him. I don't want to see him be pigeonholed into basically just bunker support, but
the way that Rascal plays him is so cool.
Yep, I'm glad you brought him up.
Was on Nimbani. That was like the coolest thing I have ever seen. I don't know if you, Squid, did you see the Nimbani center?
I have not seen this.
So
game
he sat in the entrance leading from defender spawn on the ground, and they were all bunkering like up top next to the doorway where the attackers can walk up the stairs to get to. I don't know how to describe this. Does that
Use
make
your
sense?
words. No, but it's okay.
So like, you know the stairway on the left that leads up to the
attackers left or defenders left?
The attackers left.
Okay. Yes.
So defenders are sitting up there.
Mhm.
Baptiste was sitting on the ground
Why
with
the-
Zen.
Why the fuck
underneath.
are the defenders sitting on the attacker? Oh, just like up on that platform on the
Yeah,
left,
yeah,
overlooking.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah. And then Baptiste was sitting underneath the catwalk entrance from defenders spawn, and he would just like and he was sitting on the ground floor with Zen, and he was just hitting them with heal grenades. And then whenever he got his ult up, he would put it up, and they would grab, and then him and the Zen would just destroy the people in the grab, even through trans. Because like with Discord and the Matrix word is not working. I don't know what they call that ult. I don't
His
know anything about
window?
Baptiste.
Amplification
Yeah, his
matrix?
amplification
Yeah.
matrix. Like with the Discord and the amplification matrix, you can melt tanks even through a
Sure.
Zen disc or a Zen trans. It was cool. He did it like 6 times in a row, and they kept falling for it, and they kept getting fucked because of it.
Yeah. I think so someone in chat is saying that Rascal's only playing Baptiste because he can't play Brig and it's Respawn Simulator, which I don't know if I agree with. But I think he has also been one of the DPS players in the league that's been more known for like kind of more of the niche picks, right?
Yeah, because
Like he's always had like he's always had like an interesting hero. Like he actually like his hero pool reminds me a little bit of what Seagulls looks like from time to time.
He's a Korean Seagull, yeah.
He's Korean Seagull, and then also he must have experience playing some game like CS:GO where recoil control is a critical part of it.
Yeah, his
because
recoil
he has that shit on lockdown.
Really good.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder why Houston hasn't put Jake on Baptiste.
Because Jake aim bad. No, I'm just.
I mean, Junkrat skills translating into Baptiste skills.
Who are their healers right now? Kareev and.
No. For Houston.
No, not Kareev.
Boink on Lucio.
Yep.
Boink
and it is Raucus on Zenyatta/Ana.
For some reason, I was hearkening back to the days when Kareev was a support.
And then they've had. Well, actually, it kind of like doesn't fucking matter anymore because they're avoiding goats at all costs. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we haven't seen like Jake on Baptiste, is because that it took Houston a really long time to find their kind of stable goats lineup.
Yeah.
And then by the time that like they started to feel comfortable with it ish, it was also time where they were like, oh wait, we can just use Sombra and not have to worry about the shit that we're bad at. And like start playing DPS, and then he was coming in, but he was playing other roles, and then like Linkser was on the Sombra.
Genji this weekend.
And see,
he did really well in Genji.
The Outlaws are one of those teams that make me think that maybe the 2-2-2 in Overwatch League is not necessary, because if they actually just instead of trying to be a slave to the meta, if every team just plays to their strengths. That was the biggest thing, is they spent a winless stage 2 trying to just meta slave. Just trying to grind into goats.
That's how they did so well last season, is they literally just did whatever the fuck they wanted. Which ended up being playing around Jake, which was fun to watch because he just junkratted people to death.
Which I was okay with.
Yeah, it was fine. He's a really smart Junkrat player. He's got a big brain. On
does
some
not
maps.
Compute. Well, I think something that's important to be said though, right, is that they do still run goats variants on some maps, and the current map pool drastically favors the kind of compositions that they've been running this stage more so than like stage 2. If you look at the maps, it was like goats map, goats map, goats map, goats map, goats map. And even if like there hasn't really been a lot of balance, actually there hasn't been any balance change between stage 2 and 3, right?
No.
But I think that teams were running goats more and more because it was like 2/3 of the time or 3/4 of the time you needed to be running goats anyway. Whereas now it's like you can run it 1/3 of the time, 1/4 of the time, and get away with other stuff. And that gives you the opportunity to explore more and find out what works for you. Hops, you're muted. Every fucking stream he does this.
Just stop typing.
No, I can't stop typing. No, I was actually looking up the map pool because like I did, like, for some reason I did not get that it was that different.
Also, Vanna
Are you seeing it now that you look at it, or no?
Yes, I am seeing it now.
I think that was shitty map to watch. It's so confusing.
Who?
Which map is?
Savannah. There's so many different. Everything looks the same on the second point, and there's so many different like alleys to go through, and
first and third is definitely like I like those points. So third
Yes.
is maybe a little bit too linear for me.
Yeah.
And first, I wish
Ooh.
there was maybe one more flank on the right towards the beginning part.
Or
Um,
the building had like a corridor with some cover or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, I
think
feel that.
second, it's super defender advantage.
It's just so convoluted too. It's not even that it's defender advantage. It's just like there's so many different options. It's kind of like Blizzard World, only all of the options are completely covered. Whereas Blizzard
Yeah.
World, like most of them are out in the open. Like if you're paying attention, you can see them. But in Havana, it's like, holy shit, where'd you come from, dude? You're just
Yeah.
hiding in a corner.
Well, I think so. What's been interesting for me is that the last two maps that they've released, if you look at Havana and if you look at Paris before it, right? It seems like they've had a little bit of like a shift in map philosophy where they don't want teams to run the full length of the map as often. And I'd be really interested to see like what if they have like third cap percent like completion for Havana versus like other escort maps, because I mean, at least in Overwatch League it's been much lower, but who knows if part of that's just like familiarity with the maps.
They had the same issue with Blizzard World and Rialto actually, because they actually had to change payload speeds and placement for point completion, so attackers actually had like some semblance of equality. So I think like it's obviously gotten a lot worse, but I think it's been kind of an issue in the last few maps that they're not doing a great job of giving attackers equity in terms of like advantage and positioning and whatnot.
All you have to do is look at First Point Paris.
First Point Paris is the biggest shit show in the history of the universe.
I think that Paris is the worst thing Blizzard has put into this game.
I think I'd still say
awful.
Release Brig. I think I'd still say Brig at release, but she's come down a lot since then.
But see,
even Brig on release was like bearable.
Yeah, and
to some extent, it's just like you don't win Paris, especially in gold, where people are like, I'm gonna go left. Why are you going a completely different direction than everyone else? Like that map requires so much coordination to win the first point, unless they fuck up and have like a Mei that walls off their entire team, which happens every third match in gold.
And to comment on chat, like Junkertown is pretty trash, but after you get past First Point, I don't mind it. It's trash.
I really enjoy Junkertown. I think
that's because you're a bad person, Maple.
I think that First Point is like kind of shitty, but also it's not the worst. Like
I would argue that it is in fact the worst of First Point escort maps.
Yeah. Okay, what's worse?
Havana, just because the sightlines are even worse in terms of snipers. There's almost no cover. At least in Junkertown, there's buildings on either side that you can like peek around. And
there are in Havana. Have you played Havana, Maple?
I have. Okay. But if you get fucked, like there's not enough cover, and there's only really two routes, and they're both really predictable. Like in Junkertown, there's
really
three and a half.
Yeah, but I mean,
you could go right around the stairs if you wanted to. No one does it because.
I mean, how often through there do people really go either far right or far left?
Far left quite a bit because it affords quite a bit of cover. Far right, not so much because it's pretty roundabout.
So I think there's a really good example that someone's bringing up in chat, and then I could argue against Junkertown First right now, is that double sniper on Junkertown First. You often saw crossfires where one goes main or far left and one goes far right or goes over top.
That's true.
And it's like a fucking unavoidable mess for the defense to deal with that, right? Whereas if you look at Havana's first point,
that's true.
Then there are long sight lines, but there aren't really good crossfire opportunities without taking large risks for the defender. So I think it's a little I favor that more as like a helpless.
I don't think about crossfire honestly. I consider, so that's true. That's fair. I retract my previous statement. Junkertown First Point is objectively the first worst.
Yep.
Escort.
Boom. Got him.
Okay.
Out-
Havana is a
Skills.
close second.
Put me on top of the leaderboard for the podcast. We're gonna start having face-offs like they do on on Watchpoint.
Also, I don't know if they've patched up, but Havana First Point has some janky sniper positions that you can get to with Widow. There's like some weird little parapets that you shouldn't be able to get up to, but they're just hiding up there.
Well, so the
But
first
also
patch we'll
Junkertown
have,
does that.
the first patch we'll have for Havana is the one where it's fixed a bug where Widow could get to unintended locations, and then give it 4 months, and we'll have a follow-up one for Sombra being able to translocate and Reaper being able to shadow step to those same locations.
I'm just happy that my baby Rialto isn't ever really mentioned in worse maps. I love that map.
I love Rialto. I think
didn't like
Rialto's
it.
an
Real-
amazing map.
Yeah.
You didn't like it at launch?
I didn't like it at launch, but
I wasn't
it's,
very good at
it
that.
has come a long way
Like,
as I've like
when
grown
they-
to understand it more.
Changed the payload speed.
Mhm.
That was when it got a lot better.
Yeah.
Rialto is just so is probably my favorite map they've introduced into the game since I've been playing.
It has really nice map geometry, to
Yeah.
use a buzzword.
I
Like-
really like right after you cap first point, where you have that huge opening for the river for second, and like how the defender has to hand like, and especially how the dynamic changes based on like how the attacker actually capped that
Mhm.
point. Like if they did it well after losing a team fight, and then defenders can take a fight on or close to bridge, as opposed to like if you wipe and then like completely clear them out, and then like you get to push a long way. Like there's really interesting dynamics there that we definitely see in other hybrid, but I think that one's like a really cool example on like how snipers can play in there on a map that's not necessarily always well suited to them. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
And I think, King's Row is the best map, objectively, without question.
Lijiang Tower. It's close, but Lijiang Tower is the best map in the
I
game.
agree. Lijiang Tower is the best. But also, I like Koth more than any other map type purely because you can run shit comps a lot more easily, and people can play whatever they want
I
without
mean,
too much consequence unless they suck.
I would say that Lijiang is definitely up there, but I don't know. I love my King's Row.
I like King's Row a lot.
This is
I like
this is how
Gibraltar
much
a
it
lot.
says that I like about Lijiang is that Koth is my least favorite game mode. It's my least favorite mode, and it's still my favorite map.
I miss Best of 5.
I miss Best of 5 as well.
I
But
love
the games were
Best of
so
5.
long.
Yeah,
I wish they'd
35
I
minutes
wish they'd
or
maybe
something.
changed it to being like faster like tick rate, but that much and like how many fights you have to win and everything, that I don't know if they could have made like any other change than they did, unfortunately.
I was playing with. I remember the longest match I played was like 40 minutes long on King of the Hill, and at the end, the guy with Gold Elims had like 110 kills.
Holy shit. Do you
Yeah.
remember the very like shortly after Brig was introduced, when people were scrimming and they were starting to figure out that like with Rally and Spire how much fucking healing you could put out, and people were talking about scrimming, like there were like high level scrims going on where teams were doing control and it would take like 5 to 10 minutes in order to unlock first point. Oh man. Good times.
The good old days.
Yeah. It's only
You
gotten
know
worse.
when a Koth map is going to be good when it takes like 2 minutes to capture the point. Just know.
Not as good as 2CP stalls though.
Horizon is now my favorite 2CP map. Since they changed
You
it,
have objectively horrible taste in that.
I hate 2CP. I despise 2CP, and I love Horizon.
I like 2CP as a mode, but your choice
the-
in maps is irredeemable.
What's your favorite?
My favorite 2CP map is
Yes.
Hanamura, no question.
Oh fuck. Okay, never mind.
No
I actually forgot about Hanamura. Literally, I never get that map anymore. I always forget about it. You're right. Hanamura
I
is the
wonder
best.
if anyone's still tracking map instances. If they're like, because I remember when somebody was doing the investigation into
And Bonnie.
into Numbani being like absent from the map pool. You remember how there were like other maps that were more favored and stuff like that? I wonder if there's any of that still going on, or if it's actually like a truly normal, or excuse me, a truly uniform distribution now of what maps you can.
I don't know. I mean,
Hops, you have to shit talk in voice, dude. None of this tech chat garbage.
it's not gonna talk to me anymore. I hate Temple of Anubis. What a fucking awful map that is. Like, that is the worst 2CP map by far. Like, nothing will change my mind on that fact, because there's 3 different lanes, and unless your team is coordinated and actually communicates, odds are they're all going to go different directions, or you're going to go right down the middle, get slotted every time, and wonder why you're throwing. Like, you just can't win on that map.
I think that it sucks to play, but it's a good map. And it's just because I'm plat and I'm bad, and hence my teammates are bad. And that's why my gameplay experience with it isn't good. But anyway, we've gone way off track. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about tonight before we just like devolve into what maps we like, Madness?
The last thing we had on the sheet was TFT and auto chess, but that is such a large topic.
Yeah, fuck that. That can happen another week.
I think we should focus on that maybe next week, although we have a very special guest lined up for next week. We'll see if it pulls up.
It's me.
We can ask him what his favorite map
We
is.
can ask him what his favorite map is.
He's probably going to say, like, Black Forest or something, not even like a regular map.
Oh, I guarantee you it's going to be a Bastion map.
I guarantee it's going
that's
to be
right.
Junkertown.
Oh,
It's going to be Junkertown, or it's going to be Hanamura.
I forgot he's a Bastion
Hanamura is
main.
a Bastion map? Where do you set up?
On defense.
Yeah, on
Anywhere?
defense.
Yeah, anywhere.
Literally
But
anywhere.
Where do you set up? I would
Defender
set up-
sets up on the platform overlooking courtyard.
Yeah.
In
okay.
on A.
Oh, but on
And B,
what would you
sim
on B?
strats.
What would you on B?
Sim strats.
Yeah, okay.
You watch the USA World Cup game?
Yeah, I did. Okay, I was
Yeah,
just making
that.
sure we're on the same page there.
Yep. But next week, assuming schedule works out for everybody better than it worked out this week, we will be getting Jay Hairston, the community manager for Dallas
My
Fuel and
husband.
Team Envy, on the
My
program.
husband, and therefore
He's very
Hops'
he's
son-in-law.
very attractive.
he's my husband and Hops' son-in-law. We should probably tell him because you're my dad. What do you?
Okay. Anyway, what I'm really excited to ask Jay about is that he's had to do some sort of community moderation at some point, and we all have our horrible stories. I'm really excited to hear if he'll share like his worst moderation story with us.
I don't really have many bad Twitch mod stories. I only have bad Discord mod stories.
No, that's fine. I mean,
My favorite one is both. So
just like the fact that me and another Dallas mod ended up working about 8 hours to figure out and then stop while we were getting about 13 porn bots an hour. That was just like 2 weeks ago. That was annoying.
Me and like 4 other people bullied a
See?
kid. I don't know if you were there, Hops.
Monka TOS, dude. Oh wait, no. This is the
this was
person in
last
March's DMs the other
Yeah,
day,
he
right?
DM'd March and
Oh my
Espen, and he
God.
was trolling them. And me, Cyclone, and Jachin just showed up in the general chat and harassed this kid until he left the server.
Can
and then
we-
March
can-
banned him and DM'd like 6 people asking for people.
Can we save the full story and share it next?
Yes.
Can we just have
Yeah.
like going around the circle sharing horrible
So-
stories?
Yes.
Because that one's so good.
So good.
I will share the story
Save the
about
screenshots.
I will share the story about getting death threats for removing nipples from a Discord.
Oh god, we should get Rum on for that.
Oh
Just
wait,
like
is
a
that
brief
from who
little-
I think it's from? No, that's something else.
No.
Okay, never mind. Okay, I'm thinking about dildos and that whole thing.
Oh, don't even talk about that.
Oh man, chat, we have some weird shit. Some horrible shit. You deserve those threats. Nipples are good.
I mean,
We're gonna get banned, guys. Let's go.
I was gonna go meta there, but I'm not going to. I can tell you about my Hulu scam legend.
What?
Wow.
I
Submit
got called. Sorry, I got to tell your story, Hops.
what?
I got called by a kid yesterday 3 times in a row, and he's just like, "Hi, this is Bing from Comcast." I'm like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "You have a work order for an aerial line or something?" And I'm like, "Or something?" Fuck. And he sounded
Oh,
like
man.
16. I'm at work, and I'm just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
It was me, actually, Maple.
He called 4 times
He
in a row and
desperately
said the
needed to
same
install
damn
this.
thing, and it was a real person too. It wasn't an automated message.
You didn't know that my last name is Bing? And that's my preferred name to be addressed by in the workplace is Bing from
I'm just gonna
Comcast.
call you Bing every time I talk to you now.
Yes, perfect. New
All right.
favorite
the Batcap
nickname.
podcast with Hops, Maple, and Bing.
I mean, let's just say, let's just get it out in the air. Maple, hops, and Bing sounds a lot better than Maple, hops, and Squid on the base.
Damn, straight.
Yeah,
you
but it's
change-
maple syrup. See, you can't use my full name and not use Maple's full
Okay,
name.
just
You can't cheat me.
How do I
like
change
that.
my nickname on this stupid thing?
Nope, not allowed.
Change it to Maple.
I mean, you're already
You
covered.
gotta be able to link on Twitter, dude.
I'm already covered. What?
Yeah.
What am I today? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
All right. Well, on that, we're gonna go ahead and call it for the night.
Oh
Say-
god,
Put in
the
yourself,
Mulan May in the background is
Bob.
so bad.
Oh god.
Anyway, thank you for stopping by, chat. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or you have anything specific that you want us to talk about for next week, with hopefully our special guest Jay Harrison, go ahead and drop it in the Discord under stream ideas, and we will go ahead and look at it there. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful night. Does either of you or you have anything to plug? I mean, we know Maple doesn't, so I guess I should just ask.
Yeah,
Squid.
Maple seems
I
indecisive.
had
so,
something like 3 hours ago and I lost it. Dude, I'm tripping today. One
follow
day
me
away
on
from my weekend.
follow me on Twitter at Squid on the Base. It's literally, let me check the stream. It is literally on the stream. I mean, I won't say it's hard to fuck up because it's a whole 14 characters. But try your best. I know spelling is hard.
Follow me on Twitter.
I talk about
Oh,
some
wait.
Overwatch stuff, some not Overwatch stuff, some absolute weird posting, pineapple on pizza, etc. Quality content. Everything is content.
It's true.
And I'm
It's
going
true.
to a VastCon, so I'll post pictures there.
Are you really? Are
Dude,
you?
if that happens, 100% I will go. 100% I will figure out the money to go to a
I want to go to
VastCon
that Chuck E. Cheese.
for the memes.
I want to go. That tweet between Monty and the Chuck E. Cheese was something else. I read that at work yesterday and I laughed for like a good 5 minutes.
Have you seen the website for a VastCon?
No, but I saw the ads that someone made for them.
Oh, you should check out the website. It is
All right.
extreme.
Well, we can check out the website later tonight, along with some other stuff that I'm sure Maple's going to check off stream.
My
Anyway.
suggested photos.
Throwback joke.
Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night. We'll talk to you later.